Swing of 21 games against non-NL Central opponents, the Cardinals settle into a stretch of 15 games of divisional play. And although it is hard to gain a lead while not playing teams in your own division, the Birds have taken advantage of good pitching, timely hitting, and most importantly, a struggling Central Division. Today, Houston makes their first appearance in St. Louis since celebrating a championship and closing the old ballpark. Can the Cardinals start a new streak? It's the Astros and Cardinals next. It's a gorgeous afternoon for baseball. Memorial Day 2006, Game 1 between the Houston Astros and the St. Louis Cardinals. The stars are out this afternoon, like future Hall of Famer Craig Biggio, the second baseman of the Astros. Some of the game's best sluggers, like Albert Pujols. And the Cardinals will face one of the game's best tough tests today. That's Roy Oswalt of the Houston Astros. 49 meetings the last 2+ seasons between these two franchises. Al Rabotsky, Dan McLaughlin with you. The Cardinals lead in the regular season Houston by 1 game in postseason play. And you talk about the rivalry between these two teams, Al. Really, this is one of the better ones in baseball.
It really is. A lot of times people think a rivalry has to be two teams that hate each other. These are two teams that really have tremendous respect for each other. They play great baseball. They've had some classic battles. No one will forget this monstrous home run where Lidge has never been quite the same since Pujols sent the blast. But this is the equalizer. Oswalt has already beaten the Cardinals once. He also sent them home last season.
Let's talk a little bit more about these two starters today. It'll be Jason Marquis going for the St. Louis Cardinals. You know, he's really hard to figure out. I mean, I can't figure him out. No one in town can. The Cardinals are trying to figure him out, but hopefully the Astros can't figure him out today.
Well, that's right. I mean, he's looking for win number 7 already. He picked up number 7 last year on June the 4th, so his pace is up. Oswalt is one of the best. He really has not pitched that effectively since he defeated the Cardinals with 8 innings of brilliant baseball in Houston. But we also know that he's one of the best. The Cardinals are going to try and look fastball, and when they get one, try and put it in play. All
right, we're at Busch Stadium in downtown St. Louis. Very pleasant afternoon for baseball. A little warm, a little muggy today on this Memorial Day 2006. Here at home, the Cardinals have one of the best records in baseball at 18-7. Nice long homestand begins today. And when we come back, we'll talk about the closing situation for both Houston with Brad Lidge and the Cardinals with Jason Isringhausen. That's next. In this game today, Jason Isringhausen for the Cardinals. We've seen him time and again, and he's pitching very, very well. Brad Lidge for the Houston Astros. Interesting when you talk about Lidge. They felt that the beginning of his problems began with the home run that Pujols hit in the National League Championship Series, and that was obvious. But they think that another problem may have been, Al, the fact that he was tipping some pitches. We don't know yet.
Well, I think it also got to the point where he's throwing so many sliders, and teams started laying off that slider. I mean, it's a devastating pitch, but he was reluctant to throw a 97-mile-an-hour fastball. You can still see he has 13 saves, which is 5th in the National League, and Izzy has 16. And the one thing about them, they both, since the beginning of 05, have the same amount of saves, 55 tops in the National League.
That's a look at our 4 key matchup. As far as Jason Isringhausen, got off to the slow start this year, but he has talked about the fact that his stuff is the best it's been in the last couple of seasons. He's looked terrific as of late.
Yeah, the only problem that you can say with Izzy is he continues to walk batters. It just doesn't seem like he's going to go out there and have a 1-2-3 inning, but he's only blown 2 saves, and for the most part of late, he's been very, very successful going out there, getting saves, and he's 4 away from tying Lee Smith as the Cardinals' all-time save leader.
When you look at Jason Isringhausen, Al, what do you specifically look for to know that he's on?
Well, I think it's control is the one thing. He loves his cutter, and when his cutter is working, he can be devastating. But when it's a little bit flat, he's hittable, and when he's not throwing strikes.
Well, that certainly could be a factor in this series. The 2 closers, Isringhausen and Lidge. A special story coming up on this Memorial Day. Jim Hayes will have a special look when we come back. At Busch Stadium, the eagle flying overhead here at Busch. We want to thank the men and women in the armed forces and for what they do and have done. Jim Hayes has more.
This is the first time Stephanie Brinkman will see the Busch Stadium brick she and her husband bought to celebrate their anniversary. The rest of her family was with her, but her husband Dan, a Marine, is currently serving in the infantry just west of Baghdad in Iraq.
There's Uncle Danny's name. Yeah.
Corporal Dan Brinkman won't get his chance to see the brick until he leaves the military in January. He had done 9 months in Afghanistan and had the option of serving out his tour in the States, but he chose to do his part in Iraq.
He decided instead of staying in Hawaii where he's stationed that he needed to be overseas helping his guys out. So he volunteered to go on this deployment.
This is just his calling, and he found his love. And he loves his country, he loves God, he loves his family.
And a love of Cardinals baseball has also been a constant for Brinkman. He and his wife even had wedding photos taken in front of the old Busch Stadium. And though he's now in harm's way and thousands of miles from home, Brinkman hasn't forgotten about the Redbirds.
I mean, every time he gets that 10-minute phone call to call home, he has to ask how the Cardinals are doing and what the stats are and how many home runs Pujols has hit.
And Stephanie says the opening day DVD will give Dan a little slice of home.
His eyes will just light up.
The field on this Memorial Day. And it's a full house. 4,000 plus seats open and available to the public. By the way, good seats available for the game on Wednesday if you'd like to come down to Busch Stadium. But we're wondering what it might look like, this full house. And today we're going to get a look. It's sold out on Memorial Day 2006 here in downtown St. Louis. Houston comes to town, and the Astros really haven't been playing all that well as of late. Just a game over 500 at 26-25. And for the Cardinals, they are 32-18 on the year. A 4-game lead over Cincinnati in the Central. There's a look at Phil Garner. Now they're 7-16 in the last 23 games.
Yeah, they've really struggled, but anytime they're matched up against the Cardinals and the lineup that Phil Garner can throw out at you is usually a pretty good one.
Let's take a look at his lineup, brought to you by Southwest Airlines. The speedster Willie Taveras will lead it off, followed by Craig Biggio. 15 games on Memorial Day, a .433 average. And Berkman, we'll see him. He's back in the lineup. He's been dinged up as of late. Then Ensberg, Wilson, Burke, Ausmus the catcher, Adam Everett the shortstop, Roy Oswalt on the mound, and batting 9. Jason Marquis is our Advance Auto Parts starter, a record of 6-4.
Try and become a 7-game winner, be tops on the staff. He's won 3 straight games. He did that earlier to start the season, and then he went on and lost 4 straight, including 1 to Houston. So, Jason, it kind of is all what happens in the first inning. He did win last time, the first time he has won, where he has allowed runs in the first inning. But in the first inning, in his 6 wins, the opposing team bats .143, and they bat .474 in the opening frame in his 4 defeats.
So it gives us a little indication of how he'll pitch when you watch him here in the first inning and what the game may turn out to be. Auto Tire defense behind Marquis today. Rodriguez in left, Taguchi in center, Encarnacion is in right. Scott Rowland, the third baseman, David Eckstein at short, Aaron Miles, the switch hitting second baseman, Albert Pujols at first, Gary Bennett is behind the plate. That's a look after Auto Tire defense. Number 5 in the lineup, Albert Pujols, another home run yesterday in San Diego. And those home runs are starting to pile up. 24 home runs and 61 RBIs here on May 29th.
I think it'd be fun to see if he can finish with, say, 70 RBIs by the end of May. And can he get to 100 by the All-Star break?
It's amazing. That is unbelievable that we're even talking about that, but that's the case when you think of Albert Pujols here in 2006. Willie Taveras, the center fielder for the Astros, will lead it off. He's hitting .279, no home runs, 13 RBIs. Great speed at the top of this lineup with Taveras. And Scott Rowland well off the line, couple of steps in on the grass at third base.
Second last year in the Rookie of the Year balloting. He had 34 stolen bases, lead all rookies, and finished 4th overall.
Good start here by Marquis, 0-2.
Now, Jason Marquis, it just seems like, he normally has trouble in the first inning because he's just so hyper and he elevates his pitches. But if he can get him down, he can get ground balls.
Pitch misses in. All kinds of room on left center field. Sho Taguchi is the center fielder today. Jim Edmonds on the bench, available to pinch hit. You can see what Marquis has done. First inning runs, 11 all earned. The 1-2 pitch. And it's 2-2.
Shea Taveras in the outfield to go to the opposite field. Big gap out in left center.
It's 90 degrees on this Monday afternoon.
We'll probably get a true test of how this field will play.
I was thinking that too earlier. It's not overly windy or breezy today here at the ballpark, but obviously hotter temperatures, and we have been wondering if the ball would fly.
So far it's been pretty neutral, and that was ownership's attempt.
The 3-2 pitch. Hit out to left center field. John Rodriguez over. Calling for it. Ground number 1. And it brings in Craig Biggio. Craig Biggio will probably do this today. 3 at-bats away from 10,000 at-bats in his career. That's amazing.
Be the 23rd player to all time to reach that 10,000 plateau. He's had an amazing career. The only player in Major League history to achieve all these milestones: 600 doubles, 250 home runs, better than 2,700 hits. Of course, he's over 2,800 now and 400 stolen bases.
He's 40 years old, 22nd pick overall back in 1987 out of Seton Hall. And Biggio has made it a personal goal to get to 3,000 hits, but if it ended right now, he's in the Hall of Fame.
Well, he's just been outstanding. Remember, some of us remember when we go all the way back to his early days at catcher.
And that to me is what has been amazing in his run, what he's done offensively. He has played catcher, turned himself into an all-star second baseman, a Gold Glover at one point. He played center field, he played left field, and now he moves back to second. Hit down the left field line, it's slicing and out of play. And he has transformed himself in what he does offensively to accommodate the ballpark which he hits. I mean, he's had over 50 home runs the last 2 years. And you take a look at active leaders in hits. Craig Biggio ahead of Bonds and Julio Franco, Steve Finley, and Gary Sheffield.
He's one double away from tying Hank Aaron.
Pretty well hit out to left. Going to stay in the ballpark. Rodriguez backs up near the track for out number 2.
Once again, you know, we talk about the ability to get ground balls is the strength of Marquis, and yet the first 2 batters have gotten fly balls, but at least this time right into the glove of a Cardinal defender.
I want to thank Lance Berkman, my guest on the pregame show, and now we talked a little bit about, I don't know if you saw it, but we talked about Roger Clemens and will he be back in Houston. I asked Lance about it. He said it'd be a shot in the arm for any club that gets him. And this is the kind of team that needs it right now with the way that they're playing.
Yeah.
Berkman pops it up. Roland will give chase along with Rodriguez. Out of play.
Well, the interesting thing to me, and the Hendricks brothers, Clemens' agents say money is not going to be a factor, and yet, you know, $10 million, I guess, is not what it used to be. You know, going to cost at least a minimum of $3 million a month, and probably $10 million gets you in the ballpark to finish out the season, and that would be from like July 1st on. But if the Cardinals were to go and sweep, and of course it means nothing. We've seen the last 2 years these Astros, the resiliency and how well they play in August and September. You would have to think that, you know, if the goal is to be on a winning team, that they'd have to really question, could they even, you know, the Cardinals seem to have the strength of the Central again, but can Phil Garner, Jim Hickey there as pitching coach, pull some of the magic, and could they, you know, become a wild card or the champion of the Central and get him to postseason his quest?
It's 2-2 now in Berkman. Both the Yankees and the Red Sox have said, whatever contract is out there, whatever is thrown to you, we'll pay that and we'll also add to it.
Well, they know they have to.
Money's no option.
They'd have to, because they, you know, even if you say, okay, you don't have to come to the ballpark when you don't pitch, you know, it's not like he can go home, you know, 20 minutes away or 15 minutes away from you know, Minute Maid
I'll tell you, too, the other thing, and from a player's perspective, I'd be curious how you feel about this, but if you're a Yankee in that team and you're one of those superstars, I mean, there are some big-time superstars, not just guys that are good players, but Alex Rodriguez, Derek Jeter. How would they feel about Clemens leaving and coming back? Well, third strike on the outside corner. Berkman goes down. Good start for Marquis. Cardinals coming up in their half of the first, and there's no score. McLaughlin, Al Raboski with you. No score here on FSN. Look at Tony La Russa's lineup, brought to you by Southwest Airlines. Eckstein, Rodriguez, and Pujols in the first. Scott Rowland, the cleanup man, 7 games on Memorial Day. He's hitting .452. Then Encarnacion, Taguchi, Bennett, Miles, and Jason Marquis. On the mound for the Astros, Roy Oswalt, as he closed out the old Busch Stadium and closed out the Cardinals last year.
He's an outstanding pitcher. Leads Major League Baseball in wins since 2004 with 45. Back-to-back 20-game win seasons coming into this year, and is 5-3 this year. He is not. He's winless in his last 4 outings, despite logging 3 quality starts during that time.
Here's the team leader in hits. It's not Pujols, it's David Eckstein. 64 on the year, 21 multi-hit games, and he's hitting .385 here at home, which is best in the National League.
He's the National League hit leader with those 64 too.
It's 2 balls and no strikes. Oswalt has given up his fair share of hits. With his kind of stuff, it's a little bit surprising that he's allowed as many hits as he has had this year.
Well, you know, he's such a good competitor, and he'll get his fair share of strikeouts. But I think he's the old-fashioned guy that pitches to contact. You go out there, you try and let the guys hit the ball. You let your defense make plays behind you. He's gotten away from throwing his curveball of late, throwing more sliders, a lot of fastballs.
The 3-1 pitch, now 3-2. No problem for Eckstein, who actually prefers a 2-strike count.
The more pitches you see, the more you.
Slow roller. Third base, barehanded, and got him. Great play by Morgan Ensberg.
And that's why I say you pitch to contact. This is a good defensive team.
Ensberg, good play at third. Let's take a look at the rest of the starters behind Oswalt. Burke, Taveras, Wilson in the outfield. Ensberg, Everett on the left side of the infield. Biggio, Berkman on the right side. Brad Ausmus is behind the plate. Here's a good barehanded play by Morgan Ensberg.
Morgan has become a very good all-around player. Exceptional hitter, especially in the power department of late, but he can field his position as well as anyone.
Here's John Rodriguez hitting .350. Still looking for that first home run. And he's got 8 RBIs, sitting in front of Albert Pujols today.
.353 average when he starts, .333 coming off the bench. He had a tough road trip too. There's 2 for 13. You got both those hits yesterday.
I mean, you look at a guy like Oswalt, Allen. He's 6 foot, 185 pounds, and you just don't see a guy that's going to overpower you. Then you watch him pitch. You come away amazed at the explosion on his fastball. He's throwing mid-90s. Great curveball that he's gone away from, as you mentioned. Look at his numbers in his career.
6 foot, 185. It might be a little generous with that weight, but he's got a big heart.
Rodriguez towards the middle, diving, stopping off the glove of Biggio. And it's a base hit for John Rodriguez. And a man is on in front of Albert Pujols. And we talked about providing protection behind Albert, but maybe even more important, somebody getting on in front of him.
Get on somebody in front of them, they're more reluctant to walk him. So it's like you said, what a sensational season already. You look at these numbers, and some people would be content with those at the end of the year, let alone the end of May.
Take Albert Pujols out of this lineup, and you wonder where this team would be. Offensively,
no, you don't want to. If you're a Cardinal fan, you don't want to ask.
But you look at what was happening beginning portions of this season. Rest of the team wasn't hitting. This guy was.
I know he 100-plus RBIs again last year. He didn't record his 61st RBI last year until June 23rd. So almost a month ahead of schedule.
Here comes a 1-0 pitch to Albert. On the outside corner, first two pitches, they've stayed away.
Albert, 341, 15 for 44, and a pair of home runs. Facing Oswalt. There you see the comparison. 10 more points in batting average, 13 fewer home runs, and he had 39 RBIs compared to the 61 of today.
Here's a 1-1 pitch from Roy Oswalt to Albert Pujols. Instead, a long look, and time is called. So Scott Rowland providing the protection behind Pujols today. He's on deck. Priceless. A chance to watch Albert in person here at Busch Stadium. Off the catcher, 1-2.
Tried to sneak inside there, and Albert very quick.
Talking with people that have to face Pujols, in particular, people from the Central Division, they say it's tougher to go inside this year than at any point in time on Albert Pujols.
Yeah, that was the one thing that he worked on last year. You know, he's never satisfied. He's a workaholic. He will do anything and everything to improve. But as soon as the season was over, he said, hey, got his little guru in Kansas City and said, we got to work on pitches inside.
Just like that, they popped him up. Oswalt is going to take it, and he makes the catch. Now, Al, go ahead and teach here. What's supposed to happen?
Well, I mean, naturally, most pitchers immediately want to vacate the area. Oswalt's saying I couldn't hear, but he's normally the traffic cop, and he will go out there. He's calling for it. He cannot hear Berkman, his first baseman, call him off, and almost a little snow cone as it's in the heel of his glove after his first baseman nudged him.
But the idea, though, the school would say, hey, get out of the way and direct traffic, right?
Well, but sometimes you sit there and you as a pitcher say the ball's not high enough. I don't know if anybody else can get underneath
sure.
it. And you know, the thought is that pitcher is not an athlete. You know, he can't field his position, can't do anything. We know Oswalt is much more than just a thrower. But traditionally, if you can allow a position player to field it, you let him do so.
1 ball, no strikes on Scott Rowland. 93-mile-an-hour fastball outside. Rowland hitting .314. You know he'd like to see the power numbers up. 5 home runs, 26 RBIs, but he is back. He's healthy. He's playing great defense. It's just great to see his name in that lineup every day.
Every day, you don't, you know, I mean, Al McRae, the Cardinals hitting coach, said he thought maybe in June we'd see the real Scott Rowland. Well, we've seen the real Scott Rowland from day one. He hit a grand slam, so everybody kind of felt like, okay, the power number's going to come. And he had a home run his last plate appearance. So who's complaining?
That's right. Scott was entertaining with his brother, young man that came down from Indiana to watch the game today. Of course, Scott and his wife have a foundation. Brother runs it. Enos Furley Foundation. He's doing some neat things. 3 balls, no strikes. Encarnacion on deck. They play very deep for Scott Rowland. And you look at Willie Taveras, and I guess it seems like we say this about any opposing center fielder. Compared to where they play as opposed to Edmonds, night and day difference.
Probably, what, 30 feet?
I'd say that's about right. 35, 40 feet in some cases.
Yeah. Taveras got the speed where he can come in on a ball or go left to right. Where Edmonds has great confidence of taking hits away in shallow center and the ability to go back on balls. Still kind of nursing that groin area.
That's ball 4. Well, even if the Cardinals don't score in this inning, Oswalt has already thrown 20 pitches. And now it's Juan Encarnacion. Cardinals picked up an infield hit off the bat of Rodriguez. A walk to Rowland. Runners at first and second. Encarnacion is hitting .249, 6 home runs, 23 driven in on the year.
Yeah, but he had a 375 road trip, 12 for 32, including a home run. Raised his batting average from 221 to 249.
Pitch on the inside corner for strike one.
That's only the second first pitch strike in the first 5 batters. That's another telling stat.
Nice to see the Cardinals jump out to an early lead. You don't get many chances against Oswald.
They've had some good battles with him, as they have these two teams. Very, very respectful. Play the game right. Usually everyone very, very careful what they say about the teams.
Stems from the managers, Tony La Russa and Phil Garner. Little scrap iron down there. Nickname that he picked up playing in Pittsburgh from the one and only Milo Hamilton, who was a broadcaster with the Pirates back in 1979 and now with Houston. Right down the middle, Encarnacion caught looking. First strikeout of the afternoon for Roy Oswalt. Second inning coming up, scoreless ball game. Mind you that this afternoon's broadcast is on AFN, the American Forces Network, broadcasting to the U.S. Armed Forces serving in 177 countries and aboard ships at sea. They're watching around the world in Iraq, Germany, Italy, Southwest Asia, South Korea, and Japan. And we can't thank you enough for what you do for us as we celebrate Memorial Day here in St. Louis. Little tapper left side. Marquis off the mound. No play. And it's a leadoff base hit by Morgan Ensberg, the cleanup man for the Astros. Great story by Jim Hayes in our pregame leading into our first pitch. A local Marine who is a Cardinal fan. No play for Marquis.
He hasn't seen his brick yet that he and his wife purchased for their anniversary.
That's right. David McCorney came up with the idea of sending the DVDs to the forces in Iraq. Opening day commemorative DVD. He's trying to give them a little slice of normalcy back here in the States.
Saw Colonel Todd Robbins. Got a hungo over there, you know, taking them all through Iraq. Got one of the bobbleheads. I've already been wounded.
I saw that.
I'm tough, just like all our men and women of the armed forces, doing such an unbelievable job.
Watch out. Up and into Preston Wilson.
And, you know, scrap iron and Phil Garner and the Houston Astros, many of them took a tour of the Pentagon last week when they were up in the nation's capital.
I did that.
And they walked away very, very impressed.
We had a private tour with the St. Louis Blues this last winter. It was fantastic. What they're trying to do now at the Pentagon is to have, when the sports teams come through, set up those tours so they can see what the folks at the Pentagon are doing and vice versa. Chance for those folks who don't get out that much. Some of those people are in there 24/7. Chance to pitch. 2-2.
My older brother was an Annapolis graduate and spent 20 plus years in the service, and then he became a Beltway bandit. So some of the people are familiar with that term.
2-2 pitch from Marquis. Jumped on and popped up. Foul territory. And for those that don't know the term,
well, it's a defense contractor. So he basically, his last job working in the Pentagon, and just went on the other side of the desk and started going and negotiating with the guy that replaced him.
2-2 the count on Wilson. Runner at first. They took us through the area where the plane had hit the Pentagon and what they've done with that space since then. Time was called and granted on a fastball right down the middle. That's not going to make Marquis very happy.
Well, but at least did the right thing by completing your delivery and Not trying to stop at the last second, but, you know, got a free shot. Go after the umpire or the batter.
That's right. Spoken like the Mad Hungarian. The 2-2 pitch. It's another fastball that pulls it foul. I noticed when we got to the ballpark today, down the right field line, the addition on the wall, the Central Division champions out there in right. And last homestand, the retired numbers were added to the left field wall. Quite a run that the Cardinals and Tony La Russa are on right now. 2-2 pitch. Really, since the formation of the Central Division, it's basically been either Houston or St. Louis.
And if you notice, you see the 2005 on that banner, but down below it says 96, 2000, 2001, 2, and 4. So Tony's 11th year, 6 times he has been able to say Central Division champions.
Long look by Marquis. The 3-2 pitch popped up on the infield. It's going to be Miles or Pujols. Aaron Miles is going to take it. That's out number 1. Back to first goes Morgan Ensberg.
There was a better chance for Marquis to be the traffic cop.
Right.
Go over there, and even if you have to grab Pujols or Miles, you call one and make sure the other doesn't collide with the fielder, or, you know. Of course, if I was going to do that, I would call Pujols and grab Miles.
Right. I don't blame you. Tony La Russa, this club had 100 wins last year. He moved from 6th place on the all-time wins list to 3rd. Along the way, he passed Sparky Anderson, Bucky Harris, Joe McCarthy. You think about the run that the Cardinals have had under him since 1996. He's in his 11th season here in St. Louis. It's amazing. 96, 1 win away from heading to the World Series against Atlanta. 97, they pick up McGuire. 98's the McGuire years. 99, he was outstanding again. Well hit out to right center. So Taguchi over. He'll make the catch. Spins and throws. Look at that. Good play by Show out there in right center.
They sound fundamentally come over there. He told his right fielder that he had it, and then that very quick catch, spin, throw. And as long as you do that, you're going to hold most runners. They can't really determine whether it's going to be an accurate throw, but they see the throw coming back in so quickly that'll stop most of them from trying to advance.
Center field, his natural position too. We've seen him play left very well, and right as Brad Ausmus digs in. 2 outs, runner at first. Ausmus is hitting .309. He has been very, very good offensively this year with Houston. Not known for his offense, but his Gold Glove defense.
Since April the 13th, his last 38 games, he's hit .336. Really struggling throwing out runners, but he is a very, very good handling the pitching staff. Smart guy's been around a long time now. He's caught at least 100 games for 11 consecutive seasons. And he's 3rd amongst active catchers in games played, over 1,600.
1-1 pitch. Ouch. Hits Ausmus. Runners at first and second. There was no way he was going to avoid that. That got him square.
It's one of those pitches, if you turn to face a pitcher, you get hit in the stomach. If you turn the other way, you get hit square in the back and up around the upper shoulder. Bending out to talk to Marquis for a minute. And this next guy, Adam Everett, he's had some of the biggest hits against the Cardinals the last few years. Another guy that when he first came up is really kind of more of a bunter, move runners along, but now he's become pretty much an offensive force.
2 outs, runners at first and second. He was acquired by Houston, the Carl Everett deal. He was in Boston's organization. Jimmy Williams had him. And Jimmy loved his glove. Very good defensive player. They pulled the trigger on that deal, and now he's the everyday shortstop for the Astros. 1 ball, 1 strike.
He's got 24 RBIs, so 8th place hitter that come up with some key base hits.
One of the things that separates the Cardinals as they lead this division by 4 games is what they do on the road. They're 14-11. Houston already this season on the road 8-16. At one point last year they were 2-22 to start the season on the road.
And they need at least 1 victory to avoid matching last year's franchise worst May.
They went 48-26 in the second half, made it to the World Series, and they were below 500 as late as July 8th, and yet they go to the Fall Classic. Good pitch on the inside corner. Another strikeout for Marquis, his second on the afternoon. There's no score here at Busch. Brought to you by Singular Wireless. This afternoon we'll ask you what is the most memorable moment between the Astros and the Cardinals. Pujols home run last year. Edmonds catch. Kent walk-off home run off of Jason Isringhausen. The Edmonds walk-off home run. 4-2-9-5-7. That's a tough call there.
I would say it'd be Pujols because it happened last year. And Edmonds started in the postseason in 04. The catch and the home run. I don't think it'll be Kent.
No, I think that's got a chance to win today.
And I don't think it'll be other.
So Taguchi hitting 283 up the middle, base hit. Second Cardinal hit.
Oh, one of my pet peeves is when people are critical of pitchers who don't put themselves in good fielding position. I just think it's most important is what you do getting the ball to the plate. If by the same token you can field your position, fine. But if you need to be a little extra going one way and you leave yourself left to right off that mound, so be it. A guy named Bob Gibson was a pretty good fielder, and he never ended up even on the mound when he delivered a pitch.
I just love watching pitchers that get themselves in that great fielding position.
Oh yeah, and sacrifice about 25% in the momentum and maximum effort to go into home plate.
Here's Gary Bennett, as again Oswalt has fallen behind. That one is hit out of play. The Pujols home run was one of those home runs where if you weren't at the game, you remember where you were watching.
Right, you were where?
I was in my living room and I woke up my wife and she screamed at me. She thought I woke up the baby. I said, he'll be wanting to hear about this someday. She wasn't happy with me.
Why was Miss Libby sleeping?
It was late at night.
It was Cardinal baseball.
I know, but
well, there were a lot of people that gave up on that 9th inning comeback, and they missed a dandy.
I was at the game when Edmonds hit the home run, made the catch.
Where was Libby?
She may have been with me too. I don't remember I go with. I just remember I'm here. And you, of course, were over at the Ballpark Saloon, I'm sure. And if you weren't, you'll say you were. Right?
I was both occasions because I stayed in the seats until about the 8th inning and then went over.
So you saw the catch in person?
No.
I
saw it from where you.
Catch was early in the game.
Was it?
Yeah.
That was the 9th inning.
No, the Edmonds catch early. Ausmus, left center, diving play by
I know
Edmonds.
the catch.
It was Houston and St. Louis, Al.
It's in the bar. The picture, the catch.
Here comes a 2-2 pitch. Gary Bennett getting the start today, and let's see if they want to start the runner at first. That's So Taguchi. As Yadier Molina ended a game on Saturday with a pickoff.
Well, the reason I think they'll do it is because Osmus, an outstanding catcher, but struggling throwing. He's only thrown out 2 of 21 base stealers.
There goes the runner. It's fouled away. Have you ever seen a game end like that? Tony La Russa said he's never seen it, where that Molina was able to pick off Giles at first.
Well, it was the 3rd pickoff that Molina's had this year. He had 9 a year ago, but I mean, that was in that situation where Izzy got the first 2 outs and then really base hit, walk, looked like he's struggling. He had thrown 6 straight balls, and then to have Molina pick him up.
Swing and a miss, and they gun him down. Didn't seem to be a very good jump there by Taguchi at all.
No, and even if a hit and run's on or a steal, if you don't have that good jump, you don't go.
So a double play on to strike him out, throw him out, and now it's Aaron Miles, a former roommate in the minor leagues with Roy Oswalt, today's pitcher, as Aaron was coming through the minor league system of Houston. Class A ball, these two were roommates. And have become good friends.
I remember talking to some scouts in spring training about Aaron.
Play made by Everett. We'll talk about that when we come back. 3rd inning coming up. Oswalt will lead us off when we come back. Stadium, our Schnooks, this date in baseball history, the St. Louis Browns team psychologist resigns due to the lack of player cooperation. Back in 1950. You would have been a dream for a team psychologist, Al.
He would have retired too, but for just realized he couldn't help me. But I could see back in, was it 1950?
1950.
I would think that players would, even if I'm sure he could have helped many of them, that would be very reluctant to. And we thought that that was a little bit far-reaching.
It's more prevalent today.
And more necessary. Too.
And more necessary. Here's the pitcher, Roy Oswalt. You were talking about Aaron Miles before.
No, I was just talking about that the scouts sit there and I said, tell me a little bit about him. And they pointed to a Houston scout and said, because he started with the Houston organization, he said, doesn't strike out a lot, but won't walk. And this year, you know, he's already walked 16 times. He's got one of the higher on-base percentages of the team. He's really changed that perception. He's walked more this year than he did last year with Colorado. All last year.
Already.
Yeah.
Well, he's talked about getting together with Jose Oquendo, and in particular working on turns on the double plays at second base. And Jose works with Albert Pujols and the infielders, in particular middle infielders. But they'll go back to the video. And spring training this year, Jose was trying to show Aaron exactly what was going on and how his front shoulder at times would open wide open. You know, it would be wide open and he couldn't get anything on his throws, and they really helped that aspect of his game.
Oquendo is outstanding and picking up little things, helping guys, one of the best infield instructors. You know, I knew that he had walked more this year than last year, but I just checked it, twice as much.
Is that right?
You know, and that's included in major leagues and minor leagues. He walked only 8 times a year ago.
Here's a 3-2 pitch. Of course, Miles and Luna split time at second base after the departure of Mark Grudzielanek. He's having a great time with the Royals.
Oh, yeah.
Kansas City 11-37, 23 games out.
They got a chance today. They haven't started.
This one is hit down the right field line and out of play. They flew from New York to Oakland.
It's on the way.
Ooh.
That was one thing that Matt Morris was telling me, is he couldn't believe the difference in travel from St. Louis to now in San Francisco.
Good play by David Eckstein. Well, coming up, your you're a dog lover, be sure to be part of this year's second annual Purina Pooches in the Ballpark. The date of this year's game is Sunday, June 18th. Very limited number of tickets will be on sale at the Arsenal Schnucks location beginning Saturday, June 3rd. So come meet a surprise Cardinal guest as well. And if you want to find out more, give the Cardinals a call at 345-9000.
I wonder where they're going to be seated. The Pooches.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, what section? I wonder if it's for the entire ballpark or just a closed section.
We'll be here. We'll find out. As Willie Taveras looks at a breaking ball and a strike. Willie led the majors in infield hits. He had 70 last year and 29 bunt singles. Finished in second place in the Rookie of the Year balloting behind Ryan Howard of Lafayette High School, who's really turned it on as of late for the Phillies. Power hitter. They really felt he's the real deal if he let Jim Thome go. Trade that brought Aaron Rowan to Philadelphia. Thome went to the White Sox. Taveras played the World Baseball Classic.
Don't walk him.
46 pitches thus far for Marquis. Oh, he hits another batter.
Oh,
The second one. The second one that he has hit today. He's already hit Brad Ausmus.
Remember big Stan Williams? Stan Williams was with the Dodgers, and Stan was about 6'6", and we're talking about in the 50s and 60s, 6'6", and a big man, and had a little mean streak to him too. And he had a clause with the Dodgers. He got like a $5,000 bonus if he walked fewer than 100. So he got into September, and his walk total was in the 90s. So anytime he fell behind a guy, he just drilled him.
Just plunk him, right?
Here's the record holder.
Well, I guess if you have 10,000 at bats, it's going to happen a time or two.
Well, he's the modern Major League record. 276 times he's been hit by a pitch.
Remember, he used to have the armor in the front. He still does, but not nearly as big as it once was. And that one hits Pujols. And here comes Dave Duncan. He has hit 3 now in the first 3 innings. Look to get him on the elbow with that pad.
Even with the pad, but you see, like you're talking about, see the elbow pad, and he just did catch it right at the top of that padding. Major League Baseball restricted the size of those armored paddings, and you know, none of these are intentional, but you talk about a rivalry. We've got one of the classiest two organizations, but after 3 hit batsmen, people start wondering.
Couple balls that get away from Marquis, and they all 3 have been the similar type pitch, the ball that is just running in on the right-handed hitters. You see hit by pitch all time 277.
Well, I said modern day, as you saw the man ahead of him, but 4th time he's been hit this season.
Ron Hunt was on that list. Ron Hunt calls St. Louis home. Don Baylor in the top 5. And now it's Lance Berkman with 1 out. Berkman has fantastic numbers against Marquis. Came in 11 for 19. He struck out his first time, though. Fastball in there for a strike.
Well, he's missed the last couple days with a hyperextended right knee. So he was listed day to day. He's sitting on career hit. 1 more, and he goes to the 1,000 mark.
He says hitting from this side of the plate is a lot easier on that knee. Doesn't have to drive off the back leg. 1 ball, 1 strike.
29 RBIs in April for a career high for a single month. He's tied for 5th in the National League with his 43 now. Amongst the league leaders in home runs with 14.
Here's a 1-1 pitch on the outside corner. He's got him now at 1-2. No score here in the top of the third. We're at Busch Stadium in St. Louis. The start of a nice long homestand. Game 1 of 3 against the Cardinals and the Astros. One ball, 2 strikes. Berkman has 43 RBIs, tops on the team, 14 home runs. Fights it off, pops it up.
Outstanding pitch to a very dangerous hitter. Gets a second out of the inning. A swinging bunt is the only hit off of Marquis, and then he's hit 3 guys.
Now it brings in Morgan Ensberg, who's an All-American at USC. And by the way, USC did not make it to the field of 64 in baseball. Real surprise there, but congratulations to St. Louis U. They did, and Missouri.
Yeah, Bob Hughes, who throws batting practice for the Cardinals, he is the coach there at St. Louis University.
Tim Jamieson at Missouri. A lot of people didn't think that the Tigers would get in. That will be a dangerous team. They've got Scherzer, a pitcher who's expected to be a top 5 pick overall. Some thought at the beginning of the season could be #1. They also have a lefty that picked up 11 wins this year. So that's a dangerous team in Missouri. So congratulations to both SLU and Mizzou. 0-1 pitch. 1 ball, 1 strike. Ensberg singled first time up, an infield hit. He opened up his stance and opened up a whole new world for Morgan Ensberg at the plate. Power, average, everything. When we first saw him, he was just so tied up in a closed stance, and they'd pitch him inside and he couldn't get around on anything. All-star last year. The count is 1 ball and 2 strikes as Scott Rowland did not participate in the All-Star game. Ensberg was on his way to Lake Tahoe, and he got a call from his agent, said you better turn your trip around. You're headed to the All-Star game.
He leads all Major League third basemen in home runs and slugging percentage. Since the beginning of the 05 season, he's hit 53 long balls.
In the hole here, 1 ball, 2 strikes. Runners at first and second. Good pitch.
Just off the plate, but you saw Bennett just pump his glove out towards Marquis, saying, hey, that's exactly where we wanted it.
Preston Wilson on deck. Marquis trying to send us to the bottom half of this inning. Good check swing foul.
Changeup was just bad enough. It was up above the hitting zone, but not where you want to continue to throw changeups.
It's turned into a long inning for Marquis. Here's a 2-2 pitch. The runner is off with this next pitch on 3-2.
Good speed out there.
Biggio at first, Tavares at second. Long look by Marquis. There they go. And it's ball 4. Well, he had him 1-2. Marquis trying to ask where that pitch is, and now the bases are loaded for Preston Wilson.
That's not where he wants it. You know, that's another high off-speed pitch. You know, up in the eyes of a hitter, trying to trick him. He does have good success against Preston Wilson. Preston only 3 for 20 against Jason Marquis.
See 25 pitches thrown by Marquis in this inning. Preston Wilson, the stepson of former Mets outfielder Mookie Wilson.
It's a breaking ball and just kind of Preston Wilson just pulled right off it. It was 72 miles an hour. Jason continually, after he'll throw a pitch, trying to wipe his forearm, trying to get the perspiration off it.
Not much of a breeze through Busch Stadium today. And it is warm, 90 degrees. Now the curveball hammered off the glove of Roland. And Eckstein will just put it in his pocket. Run will score. A base hit, RBI for Preston Wilson. That thing was hammered. And it's 1-0 Houston as Tavares scores.
Six-time Gold Glover can't handle a shot and deflects it. Eckstein picked it up, thought about throwing, but then put it in his pocket. Well, the Astros take an early lead, but it's all the undoing of that's the first hit of the inning.
He has hit 2 this inning. He's also walked a man. And now it's Chris Burke, left fielder that has been moved to the outfield. Normally a second baseman. Also plays shortstop. The solo home run in the bottom of the 18th that won Game 4 of the division series and clinched the division series win over Atlanta last year. Longest game in postseason history. They played a long one the other night. Pujols will flip to Marquis, steps on the bag. Houston strands the bases loaded, but they pick up an RBI base hit from Wilson, and it's 1-0. Oh, right there, Al. Ken Roberts, one of our cameramen, was in Alaska. There's Kenny. Hello, Kenny. And it's 1-0 Houston. He was in Alaska, and he brings that back for us to make us all jealous.
I'm wondering right here, and if these benches have been warned. And I think Tony's going, well, wait a minute. You know, I mean, they were all unintentional. But this is where the umpires, in an effort to try to keep something from escalating, almost create an environment that makes people think that there was something intentional.
Well, if both sides have been warned, then Bill Garner is the one that's got to be a little upset. His guy hasn't hit anybody. He's seen 3 of his guys hit. Marquis chops it to second. We're back to the top of the order. David Eckstein, then Rodriguez. Oswalt and the Astros now 1-0 lead. Talked about this story earlier, but for folks that haven't heard it, Roy Oswalt could barely lift his arm above his head back in 1999 after pitching in the minor leagues and in the playoffs. And that winter, before seeing a doctor, who was fixing his pickup truck and was electrocuted by an exposed wire. And when he came to his senses, his arm was totally pain-free. And he reported to spring training that year feeling great. Some of the trainers have speculated that the shock could have knocked out built-up scar tissue. So, Al, I don't know how your shoulder's feeling, but maybe you want to go try that out.
How do you think I heard it? How do you think I heard it?
Oh, that was it, huh?
I electrocuted myself.
A chopper, tough play, and it goes into left field. Eckstein will stop it first. So it's a base hit. Cardinals with their 3rd hit.
National League hit leader picked on his counterpart, an outstanding fielder, but gets underneath not 1 but 2 Houston Astros gloves. Ensberg comes over there and may have shielded and screened Everett a little bit, but Everett never got the glove all the way down. He's only committed 2 errors on the season. And ball underneath his glove into left field for the base hit.
Eckstein is running through the bag that time, not paying attention to what happened. You know, just trying to get to the bag. If he sees that, he could have taken a turn and maybe could have gotten to second base.
Because the left fielder Burke really did not react until the ball got by the shortstop.
Now it's John Rodriguez, looks at a strike. Rodriguez with an infield hit off the glove of Biggio, first time up.
But we've talked about so many times how Eckstein or Spezio, Rodriguez, second place hitter, many times thinking ahead, how do I keep first base occupied with Pujols on deck?
No balls, 2 strikes.
Big gap in left center.
They pitched him away in this at bat. He goes with it. All kinds of room out there. It's 1 ball and 2 strikes.
Oswalt pretty effective at hitting his spots.
Out of Weir, Mississippi, Roy Oswalt, senior graduating class, had 30 students, and his hometown has a population of less than 600. He's a football player, and a very good one. But when you throw 95, I think he chose the right sport. Count even. 2 balls, 2 strikes, and a check on David Eckstein.
But you could see the influence of football on his competitive nature.
I love how he'll go right after you.
He doesn't believe he's 6 foot, 185 pounds.
2-2 pitch. Now it's a full count. See what Tony La Russa wants to do here. You've got Pujols on deck. Eckstein at first base, and like you said, though, Al, you'd like to almost keep it occupied.
Yeah, you do, but you've got a guy that can induce a lot of ground balls, and Oswalt.
Runner not going. There's your double play. 4-6-3. 4-6-3 double play, and that ends the 3rd. Houston will have 7, 8, and 9 in their order coming up. They lead it 1-0. We'll check out the Cardinals Alumni Kids Clinic, sponsored by Bank of America. Boys and girls ages 7 to 13 can learn baseball fundamentals from former Cardinal greats like Jack Clark, Kenny Reitz, Ricky Horton, Scott Terry. Visit the nearest Bank of America location to find out more. And Daly is going to be part of that. Tom Lawless, Lee Thomas, Neil Fiala, Kurt Ford, John Costello, Brad Ausmus hit by pitch, first time up. Houston leads it 1-0. Cardinals elected not to send the runner, and they hit into a double play. Roland thought about coming in, backs up, strong throw, and there's 1 away. Tony La Russa gets into a situation where it's kind of tough. When you've got Pujols on deck, you've got a runner at first. Do you start the runner? Do you want to keep it occupied? You run the risk of hitting into the double play, like you said, Al, and that's exactly what happened. But it's a tough spot with a guy like Pujols, and he had to deal with that when Mark McGwire was here too.
Yeah, his philosophy with McGwire is anytime they want to walk him, so be it. But Albert, he's such a weapon, and he can lead off the inning. He could tie the game next inning. But that's why it's so important, the guy in front, the guy behind. But you just knew right there, it's like you'd rather see him start the runner and avoid the double play. And if they want to walk him, then you got 2 men on for, with 2 outs.
2 balls, no strikes. Adam Everett struck out first time up with runners at first and second. He struck out looking. Marquis has struck out 2. He's walked 1. He's hit 3. The Astros have just 2 hits. Now he goes 3-0. I mean, even as he's won games, Al, he just, to me, hasn't looked comfortable.
No, I mean, he struggles in so many of the games, and yet you just got to admire his perseverance and how he'll battle, and he'll go out there, and normally he'll have a rough first or second inning, and just kind of eventually about this stage of the game settle in and pitch his 6 or 7 innings. But it seems like he just makes it tough on himself.
It's now 3-2. A couple of times he has questioned home plate umpire on the strike zone. He's been frustrated with that.
I think some of the times that I have seen him question pitches, I don't think he had any right to question them. Sure in the heck didn't want to throw breaking balls up in people's eyes.
3-2 pitch.
Like that.
Walk number 2 on the afternoon by Marquis. And it brings in Roy Oswalt. You see the pitch count, 71 already by Jason Marquis, 46 for Oswalt. Cardinals jumped out to a big lead yesterday over San Diego and then eventually lost that game with Mark Mulder on the mound. As the Padres took 2 of 3, a real frustrating loss for the Cardinals, having that kind of lead, but not able to pull off the W. Cardinals have played well on the road, and that was a successful road trip. 1 out runner at first. Oswalt squares and looks at a ball, spins away from a fastball up and in. Cardinals will hold that runner at first. Charging is Scott Rowland, the third baseman. Now out to talk is Gary Bennett. We're in the 4th of a 1-0 game. Sure, one of the things that Bennett was saying, don't worry about the strike zone. You still got to make pitches.
It just seems like he does everything he can to avoid pitching to contact. Always trying to make perfect pitches.
Bunted to Pujols. Thought about going to second. Covering over at first, Aaron Miles. Sacrifice is good. And it goes 3-4. Runner in scoring position at second base. And if you have a Cardinals question, or you're just dying to have answered, email the postgame show, mwsr@foxsports.net. Be a part of the show, and you have a chance to win an FSN prize pack, the Busch Light Midwest Sports Report. And now it's Willy Taveras. Third time through the order for Houston. Taveras has flied to left and was hit by a pitch and scored back in the 3rd on the base hit by Preston Wilson. Room into left center field. Outfield, though, very shallow. Taveras to Miles. Good play. Has to hurry. Got him. Whoa. Just got him by his step. He can just fly down the line. Pujols is due up first for the Cardinals as he moves to the bottom of the 4th. Bauer from Old Monroe, Missouri, and Eric Hugenberg from Hannibal, Missouri. This year's St. Louis area winners of the Briggs and Stratton Diamonds in the Rough essay contest. $5,000 of refurbishments to their field. Pujols on the first pitch. Fouls it away. Albert Pujols came in hitting .315 to play today.
Major league leader in home runs, RBIs, and runs scored.
Down the right field line. That's going to drop foul. Maybe more impressive than the home runs are the RBIs. It's on a pace to break Hack Wilson's record of 191. Of course, when you start talking about could he get to 73 or 191, you have to wonder if they're going to pitch to him. And I can't believe teams have been pitching to him as much as they have. You see where he's at as far as RBIs, well ahead of Jones and Bay and Howard. Albert smokes this one out to center field. Taveras going back and makes the play on the track. He couldn't hit it any harder. That was a missile.
Line drive that just didn't elevate.
He's playing so deep anyway. It's good speed, got a good jump, and there's one away.
As hard as that ball was hit, he had to have played that deep in order to get back on it.
Now it's Scott Rowland. Walked his first time up. And Rowland swings and hits it down the right field line. Over near the corner, it's Wilson, and he's got it for out number 2. Tiptoeing over there. 2 outs. Encarnacion will dig in. Here's the Aflac trivia question. Aflac! Since 1962, who has the most career runs versus the Cardinals? The Aflac trivia question. Strike one to Juan Encarnacion. Certainly we'd have to think Craig Biggio would be up there.
Well, and we understand he would have been my pick, but he is second.
Since 1962.
I'd have to say if it's not Biggio, he's not playing.
That is pulled fair. And it's extra bases for Encarnacion. He's digging for two.
And my guess is that it wouldn't be a doubles hitter. It'd be kind of a singles hitter and a leadoff guy.
Yeah.
So here's Juan's. Continues his good hitting that he started on the road trip just inside the third base bag. With 2 outs, he's sitting out scoring position for Taguchi, who got a base hit his first time up, which was his first time ever batting against Oswalt.
Just single up the middle. Cardinals had their best chance of the afternoon in the first. They had runners at first and second, but then Encarnacion struck out to end the inning. They'll go inside on Taguchi for strike one. Hit 471 on the recent road trip. He's 8 for 17. Jim Edmonds is on that bench today. Again, they go inside. That's strike two. Taguchi can't believe it.
Bruce Druckmann is the home plate umpire, and a lot of times we see pitchers not getting pitches inside, even the ones that look like good strikes. That one looked like it was a ball.
Here's the 0-2.
Slider in the dirt. Big gap out in left center.
Down the third base line, they've got a little shade now, not quite as hot. And I look at all the fans down behind the dugout fanning themselves. It is hot down there. Hot during BP this afternoon. 1 ball, 2 strikes, runners at second.
It's not like 1966 during the All-Star game of Busch Stadium 2, when Casey Stengel was asked how does he like new Busch Stadium. He said, well, it holds the heat very well.
That's right. 2-2 pitch. That got him. Oswalt is saying he offered at it. Taguchi is hit by the pitch, and Roy Oswalt is saying he's swinging. So the Cardinals have hit 3, and that's the first that Oswalt has hit today.
Opened up, and it gets him on that back elbow, the right one. See, we're still trying to determine whether pitchers were even warned. But why warn people? Because even if they are warned, it's still up to an umpire's discretion whether it was deliberate or not.
Two outs, runners at first and second. Home plate umpire told Ernie Hayes to muzzle it. Enough with the organ music, he says. Nothing at 2 the count on Gary Bennett. Struck out first time up.
Let's have a pair of hits against Oswalt in 7 plate appearances, including that strikeout. 2 out base hits win you a lot of ball games. This inning's got it up to 96 miles an hour. First inning it was at 94, so getting stronger.
And Bennett hits it down the right field line, out of play. Memorial Day 2006 here in St. Louis. We're at Busch Stadium. Al Hrabosky, Dan McLaughlin, and a sold-out crowd. New seats have been opened up, first time today. So the official capacity now is 43,975 with standing room only. You fill that up, it's 46,861. And Bennett strikes out. Blew it by him. Third strikeout of the afternoon for Oswalt as we head to the fifth. Tell you about the Aflac trivia question. Since 1962, who has the most career runs scored against the Cardinals? There it is. Runs scored against the Cardinals since 1962. Pete Rose, 187. Then Biggio, Schmidt, Joe Morgan, and Andre Dawson.
Schmidt and Dawson were in the same division back there when the Cardinals were in the Eastern Division of the National League.
Just trying to think of teams like Pittsburgh, early 90s, when they had those very good teams, and this is career at bat number 10,000 in the career of Craig Biggio. Biggio, Berkman, and Ensberg.
Had a nice career.
Hall of Fame career. Doesn't pick up that front leg like he used to. He's cut down on that. He's actually been trying to lift the ball more because of the Crawford boxes in left field at Minute Maid Park. 0-2 pitch. And he lifts this one out to shallow left center field. Taguchi is there.
Now the game has become so offensive minded, and instead of lifting that leg way up in the air, lifting it about 3 or 4 times higher than that, just a lot shorter, get it down, generate a little more drive.
Now when you think of Biggio, you think of Bagwell, and it's just unfortunate with the way that things played out that Jeff Bagwell cannot play any longer. Bad shoulder, and he just couldn't even throw.
I mean, marriages lasted longer than those two traveling together, and I mean, but you're absolutely right. Just two of the classiest guys when you think of them as teammates in tandem. Berkman is, he started to come right into that same ilk and become that same type of personality. Just represents the Houston Astros extremely well.
Here's a 2-0 pitch. A shift is on for Lance Berkman. He can hit. 2 balls and 1 strike. He had struck out looking first time up, and he's also popped out to third.
Homegrown at a Rice University.
His dad actually was his agent for a while. 2-1 pitch right down the middle. He stopped doing that. He said it just got too tough. Business decisions, crossing over with family. He said it just wasn't a good combination. And I see you laughing over there.
I could just see how it could become a distraction for the family.
Sure.
Tug of war.
The 2-2 pitch. He doesn't get the call. And now we'll have to come at him with a 3-2.
What do you think? You think, is it the client or the agent that is arguing about how high the agent's fees should be?
This one is hammered down the right field line and off the wall. Encarnacion plays it perfectly and holds him to a single.
Hit so hard, and then right at the base of the wall, got to Encarnacion so quickly. And remember, Berkman's first game in about 3 with that hyperextended knee, so he's probably not running very well. And if he would have tried it, he would have been out.
It's hit number 1,000 in the career of Lance Berkman. Pujols has gotten to 1,000. Derek Jeter this last week got to 2,000. One of the quickest in the history of the Yankees.
Well, if you think about Albert, since he's come into the league, he has the most RBIs since arriving on the scene in 2001, and Berkman is second behind him, but over 100 RBIs fewer. Two of the best young hitters in the game.
Good guys too. Good people.
And like you said, current group of players are just the caretakers of the sport. This game's been around before any of these guys were born, and when they leave the game, a new bunch of guys will take over, but those are two of the better standard bearers.
Here's a 1-1 pitch from Marquis. Off the end of the bat, Morgan Ensberg fouled back, put on base twice with a single and a walk. So the house is full today, finally. A sense of relief for Mark Lamping, the Cardinal president, and his staff.
Should be congratulated as we're ahead of schedule. It was supposed to be in July when all the seats would be opened up.
With as many home games that we played early on, it was tough to get the crews in here to do the work necessary to have it ready as the seats were in, but concessions, bathrooms, those kind of things needed to be put in place and ready to roll. Here's a 2-2 pitch.
And just as important that is the Casino Queen's party porch. Had to get that big nice bar back behind it completed. So I know where I'll meet you the next game.
That's right.
We do not work.
See if they want to start the runner here. It's Berkman. It's not going. It's tapped in front of the plate. Bennett only play to go to first. That's Pujols. One of the reasons they don't start that runner too is the sore knees of Lance Berkman. Let's go pitch by pitch, and this is brought to you by your Mid-America Chevrolet dealers.
Fastball, but you see his pitches are up. Right, the breaking pitch there had him out in front a little bit. Same thing, off speed. And comes with that sinker that's down and in, and sets him up for the slider down and away. And then another little breaking ball just hit it off the end of the bat. Pitches up, but not really centering the ball, and they haven't done any damage. No extra base hits in the 3, and 2 of them have been infield variety off of Marquis.
And Wilson pops it up. Taken by David Eckstein. The Astros here in 5 innings have stranded 7 runners, but they lead it 1-0. Tomorrow the Cardinals series against the Astros continues. Live coverage begins at 6:30 with Cardinals on deck right here on FSN Midwest. And Anthony Reyes will make that start. If you haven't heard that Chris Carpenter has been put on the disabled list, that would have been his start. As Miles is going to try to bunt his way on. He's going to do it possibly here. Race to the bag, and he's safe.
Just stay at the bag. Even though they hadn't tracked it down, I mean, it looked like that they were going to get to it a lot quicker. Miles, after a 3-hit day yesterday, picks up his first hit, and good to see a leadoff guy here. So a little push bunt, trying to get it by the pitcher, successful there, and Berkman kind of flips it to Oswald covering, got by the pitcher, but really wasn't. His momentum's going so far down that it took him a little time to stop, and he's on base now. Don't run into an out, get thrown out at second.
Now it's Marquis, and sometimes what you'll see that runner do is start to make a turn towards second base, and then they realize they can't go, and they're walking then in foul territory. But once they cross that line, they're tagged out. Even in foul territory, you're out, and that's why you saw Miles go back to the bag, I'm sure.
Because he did make enough of an effort towards second that would be come into play.
Marquis will square here and bunts it foul.
Instead of really sacrificing, trying to drag it after showing bunt, and instead of letting the ball come to him, he was kind of pulling away running.
Wouldn't shock me if they put on a bunt sign and then had him try to slap it.
It wouldn't. It wouldn't shock me if they did anything. Watch Marquis on that bunt attempt. Watch what he said. He tried to push it and very close to being out of the batter's box. Still on the line, still safe.
See where he is in his stance.
Yeah, you know, like this one, when he comes up, he
Then
takes a step.
Right.
He takes a step forward and puts himself very close to coming out of the batter's box.
There he is. He steps forward. Runner's going. And the bunt is a good one from Marquis. Hustling down the line. They get him by a step. And advancing on the play, Aaron Miles to second. He is almost out of the box. He takes his stance, moves up about a foot right there, and he's almost out.
Well, he's all right because his back foot's still in the box, but gets out in front, and he's a good athlete. Last year's Silver Slugger Award winner in the National League.
Now they're just trying to manufacture a run here with a bunt hit by Miles, sacrifice by Marquis, and we're back to the top of the order, and David Eckstein, who is 1 for 2. He singled back in the third. He's also grounded out to third.
David, National League hit leader, added one more his last time up. Innsburg took a hit away from him his first plate appearance with a nice play at third.
Hitting streak for Eckstein at 11 games.
Ties Edmonds for the team high this year.
Little floater out to right center, may drop, and it does. They're going to hold up Aaron Miles. He had to wait to make sure that baby was going to get down, and Eckstein reaches with a base hit. Another multi-hit game for David Eckstein, and that's number 22. 22 multi-hit games for Eckstein this year.
Miles reads this pretty well. He kind of sits there, he takes a little bit of a gamble, keeps on going, picks up his third base coach, and they hold him right there as Tavares got to that ball very quickly in his momentum coming forward.
John Rodriguez, the hitter. You're Roy Oswalt, you're saying I'm a double play out of this inning, and that's what he did against Rodriguez back in the third, a 4-6-3 double play. And John has also singled off the glove of Biggio his first time up.
Well, he's been hitting a lot of ground balls and pulling a lot of balls. And so, you know, right now, it's kind of that double play candidate. John was hitting 400, and it wasn't that long ago. He was spraying a lot of balls to left field. They kind of shade him in the outfield to pull. And instead of using the big part of the field, he's been kind of pulling the ball and pulling the ball on the ground, coming in on it.
1 ball, 1 strike.
Got a strikeout pitcher. You got a guy that is very crafty. This is the pitch right here that he needs to take to left field. And that's a pitcher's pitch. Whether it was a strike or not, there wasn't much he was going to be able to do offensively with that. But a pitcher's pitch, look at this, down on the strike zone, right at the knees, off the plate, or right on the black. And you really just have to guess and go dive across the plate to even make contact on that one.
Dodgers have beaten Atlanta 12-5. That's a final. And the Cubs win over Cincinnati 7-3.
Didn't want the fastball in. Didn't want the slider.
Haven't seen much of that curveball today.
No, he for the most part has kind of gotten away from it, but there was an effective time to show it and show it out of the strike zone. Even the count 2-2, but it got the hitter Rodriguez conscious of it. Where they throw the slider in, fastball in, come in with the fastball in.
The 2-2 pitch. Rodriguez grounds it to first. A play at the plate. Miles is in the hot box now.
Couldn't stay in it long enough as Osmus does a good job of running him down, closing the gap to where he could tag him, where Eckstein could not advance to third.
So he was tied up, and easy decision for Berkman here to come to the plate.
Well, here he is. He throws it inside there. He tries to open his hips, but it jams him. And there's that little ground ball we talked about to the right side. Berkman comes in. He's got a, usually a pretty strong and accurate throwing arm for a first baseman. And Miles really had no place to go.
And nowhere to put Pujols here in this situation with runners at first and second.
Well, they do have a place, and that's what they're talking about right now. It's
third base, obviously, to load him up, right?
When you talk about an extraordinary hitter, you do talk about pitching around a guy even if it loads the bases. You talk about all the time about how Izzy, at times was not afraid to pitch around a guy even if it loads the bases to create the opportunity or the at-bat or the opponent that he chooses and desires.
Crowd comes alive. Pujols smoked one to center his last time up. Just caught by Taveras. He's 0 for 2.
But you got a guy that's won 45 games the last 2+ years. He's on the mound. He thinks he's good enough to equal Pujols. And he went right after him with the first one. Albert 0 for 2 on the day, 15 for 46, and a pair of home runs when facing Oswalt. And he's the guy that everybody has to say, don't let him beat you. And he leads the major leagues in game-winning RBIs.
No balls and a strike on Pujols. Here it comes. It's strike 2. That one at 95, the first one at 94. Oswalt now at 74 pitches thrown on the afternoon.
I think his high of the day is still 96, but he's gone after Albert, got him to expand his zone a little bit.
Runner at first base is Rodriguez. Eckstein, the runner at second. Albert is swing and a miss. 3 pitches, and he struck him out. Pujols is 0 for 3. The Cardinals strand 2 runners. Strikeout number 4 on the day, none bigger than this one for Roy Oswalt as he gets Pujols. Friday night, get a look around the major leagues with the FSN Baseball Report. We're covering every team all season long with highlights, interviews, and analysis you don't get anywhere else. The FSN Baseball Report, Friday at 6, only here on FSN Midwest. Gentleman in the blue hat, the Titleist cap, is Mike Caruso of the St. Louis Blues. Works behind the scenes in our travel and with the media. He's been with them for a long time. One of the real good guys in the sport.
You always raved about how well he takes care of you guys on the hockey scene.
Does a great job.
Keith Kachuk was down on the field with 2 of his sons and his brother before the game.
Getting autographs. Albert Pujols was signing a couple jerseys for him. Those kids just look like Keith Kachuk, don't they?
Yeah, and you could tell his brother, very close resemblance too, and especially when you hear the Boston accent. But
well, I say they look like him because they were dirty, full of mud, and
I told the youngest
grass.
one, I said, your uniform looks like a Steve Klein hat.
That's right.
And he goes, yeah, he couldn't resist. He dove right into the dirt. But, you talk about Pujols. That was how you pitch Albert Pujols.
This one is hit out to center field. And Taguchi will back up and make the catch.
But how many guys have the ability to throw effective pitches that, Oswalt had? And that last pitch absolutely exploded in on his hands.
Shades of last year's championship series.
And that's why when he went back to Kansas City and told his buddy back there, and he works out at the gym, that he said, we need to go work on inside pitches. I need to become better there. And that is a very vulnerable spot for the big guns in this Cardinal offense. Power pitching in.
Approaching 100 pitches on the afternoon, 95 today. Houston with the only run of this ball game. That was back in the 3rd. With the bases loaded, Preston Wilson hit a bullet to Scott Rowland off his glove and wound up being a base hit. This is out number 2. It's been kind of a rocky start for Marquis. He's hit 3. He's walked a couple. But yet you look up, here we are in the 6th inning, and it's only 1-0.
Well, he's only scattered 3 singles to the Astros, and 2 of those were in the infield variety. And probably his last 2 innings, the 5th and 2/3 here in the 6th, have been his most efficient. And it wouldn't surprise me a bit, even with that 97 pitch count, if he goes back out there in the 7th. He's probably the best suited to go over 100 pitches.
Here's a ground ball taken by Miles. Everett retired. So just the second 1-2-3 inning that Marquis has had today. Bottom of the 6th coming up. Encarnacion to Gucci for the Cardinals in their half of the 6th. A fastball in there for a strike from Oswald. Roland today has walked. He's also flied to right. We started the day talking about the closer's situation for both these teams. Brad Lidge notched his first save since May 19th yesterday. He said he's really had problems locating his fastball. Really throwing the slider a lot more. And that's one of the reasons he's fallen into tough times this year. Also, Joe McEwing, the former Cardinal, was called up recently, and those two were having lunch. And McEwing said when he was in New York, he knew exactly every pitch that Lidge was going to throw. Tipping pitches. They feel he has looked better as of late.
Well, they took him out of the closer role for a few days, and he has pitched much better. He's unscored upon his last 7 outings, and he is back as the closer. But when you talk about a guy like Lidge, that you're coming in there, you're only getting 1 bat a day against him. You can still know the pitches, but can you hit a 97-mile-an-hour fastball? Can you hit an unhittable slider when he puts it in certain locations? And I think when they knew slider, they laid off it until they had 2 strikes, because a lot of times you throw that good one, it breaks out of the strike zone. Looking for the fastball.
Here's a 1-2 pitch, and Roland hits it back to Oswald. Look what I found for out number 1. What's on tap, brought to you by Bud Light. I know what you're thinking over there.
Thank you.
His defensive positioning.
Right.
And how he finishes up. What's on tap, brought to you by Bud Light. Andy Pettit, Anthony Reyes. Pettit just 3-6 on the year. Anthony Reyes 1-0 after his 1 start in Kansas City. Called back up with Carpenter on the DL. Reyes did make another start in the minor leagues, and he was terrific in that start. There's a look at Carpenter. He's going to miss 1 start out of this whole time, and Cardinals want to side on that.
Sure.
With caution with Chris Carpenter.
Yeah, you can backdate it to where his last time he pitched and started the game. He missed the one in Kansas City where Reyes came up, made the start, so he would just miss 1 more start and then come off the DL. Hopefully that is the game plan. But it's nice to have an option like Reyes. In that 1 start, he went back to Memphis, 8 shutout innings.
The one thing that the Cardinals felt with Reyes in his last start, it wasn't just throwing. He was pitching, trying to mix up speeds and locate. And while he did have success a year ago in a start against Milwaukee, they felt the other one against Kansas City was much better.
Well, and it's tough because he went into spring training with a chance to win the 5th spot, and then they basically said we have to change because, okay, you've had success in the low minor leagues, but if you're going to be successful in the major leagues, you can't throw that 4-seam fastball up. These guys will hit that. You got to start throwing a sinking fastball, and it's a pitch you didn't totally believe in. So didn't have the best of springs, but it's all going to work in the long run.
1 ball, 2 strikes on Juan Encarnacion with 1 out, nobody on. The Cardinals trailing by a run. Encarnacion is struck out back in the 1st and doubled. 1 for 2.
Didn't want the slider, fastball inside, didn't want it, didn't want the curveball, changeup, didn't want anything. He doesn't have that many pitches. And Osman's just playing games. Curveball.
Got him. Strikeout number 5. Rarely has he thrown that pitch.
When it's going to be tougher and tougher to hit, as you can see with the 3 o'clock start here in St. Louis. The shadows start increasing, and bright sunshine is where the pitcher releases the ball, but at home plate you're in kind of the dark shadows. Lights have not been turned on. Something maybe in next inning or so will be.
2 outs now, and here's Sho Taguchi.
I get a little bit, see where that shadow comes across.
Curveball that's lifted out to left field. It drops in there for a hit in front of Chris Burke. Taguchi on base for the 3rd time. He's been hit by a pitch and 2 singles.
There is a hump in that breaking ball, and so he starts to go out there. He recognizes off speed, waits. You saw a little bit of the weight shift, but the hand stayed back. It was a hanger, and he picks up his 2nd hit. He's been on base 3 times with 2 singles and hit by a pitch.
That's Gary Bennett with 2 outs.
Seems like every time the Cardinals get a guy on, it's definitely 1 out, but most of the time with 2, and Gary's had a tough couple days. Breaking ball there. He struck out twice. Once part of a double play as Taguchi was running back in the 2nd. Strike him out, throw him out, and another strikeout. He's chasing a lot of balls up and away.
Back to Oswalt.
Can't field his position.
He makes the play. Cardinals strand their 7th runner of the afternoon. We head to the 7th. Friday telecast is presented by authority of the St. Louis Cardinals LLC and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form. The accounts and descriptions of the game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of the St. Louis Cardinals LLC. We're at Busch Stadium in downtown St. Louis. 1-0 Houston. Oswalt in the top of the order, and we're going to see a pinch hitter here. So Orlando Palmeiro will pinch hit for Oswalt, and that may be the best news the Cardinals receive yet.
Yes, it is.
Get him out of this game. Former Cardinal Orlando Palmeiro.
Palmeiro, 2nd among active players with pinch hits. And he has 89 in his career.
Popped up. Foul territory. Bennett over along with Rowland, and Scott Rowland makes the play. Great play by Rowland.
It looked like very much communication between the 2 of them, and Gary Bennett the last second kind of looked at Scott Rowland. He looked like he had the beat on it, and he must have heard Scott call him off because he's starting to get there. But anytime you can have the fielder's glove on those pop-ups, it's a lot easier than the catcher's glove, even though the evolution of the catcher's glove is so much more pliable and more hinged than the old Pizza Hut or the old pizza, glove where it just had a hole in the middle.
Also, over there, you have to avoid the bats. They have a couple of lefties in their bullpen, but
Trevor Miller, he was on the disabled list when we were in Houston first time around.
Rowland, backhanded play. He was playing in with the speed of Taveras. And there's 2 away.
Actually, once again, Marquis having one of his more efficient innings.
Marquis is due up 2nd for the Cardinals.
He's retired 7 in a row. He might as well do it in quick fashion, but this is what we talk about. Look at, 6th inning, he threw 7 pitches. Last inning, 4 pitches, and off to a very efficient, quick 7th inning right here.
Biggio looks at strike 1. He's been hit by a pitch. Fly to center and fly to left.
Chicago defeats Cincinnati 7-3.
Good pitch. 1 ball, 2 strikes.
It's just, he's got to throw 105 pitches to where he can get kind of wears down, to where he can get on top of balls and get pitches effectively down in the zone. Gonna throw a slider here.
One hopper to Miles, and it's time to stretch on Memorial Day. A 1-run lead for Houston. Bottom of the 7th, coming up the bottom of the order for the Cardinals. Call to the bullpen is brought to you by Chevrolet. Trevor Miller, 14th appearance, a 4.63 ERA, no record on the year. We got a couple of lefties down there, Miller here and Gallo as well. The Cardinals have their long drive inning right now. Sally Smith, today's merchandise winner. The Hyundai long drive inning sweepstakes. If the Cardinals hit a home run, Sally Smith qualifies for the Hyundai Sonata drawing in September. To register, visit a St. Louis area Hyundai dealer. A little surprised that they decided to take Oswalt out of this game.
Yes, especially with the amount of innings that they had played over the weekend, that you'd have to think there's a few arms in that bullpen that are a little, that are could do with a little rest. They choose to do so. Miller has a 1.13 ERA in May. He's not allowed to run in his last 5 appearances. Mentioned he was on the disabled list when we were in Houston earlier with a slight strain of the elbow. His 8th big league season and his 2nd time around pitching for the Astros.
Miles reached a bunt hit last time up. Also grounded out to short. He's 1 for 2. Oswalt 6 innings, no runs, 6 hits, walked 1, and he struck out 5. Biggest strikeout of the game was Pujols back in the 5th with runners at 1st and 2nd. Miles leads it off with a base hit.
Well, the Miles and Luna combination keep on shining, and Luna will pinch hit. As you see the ball out of way, just kind of a defensive swing, but well placed. And Luna, who really just seems like he crushes left-handed pitching, but he's been outstanding in the games that he has started.
Sometimes in a spot like this with Marquis, as Luna's going to pinch hit here for Jason, Tony will just keep him in there if you're going to sacrifice and let Marquis bunt.
Well, even if he wasn't, sometimes we'd see him do that. But we are in the 7th inning. Luna had a good road trip. He was 6 for 12 during that time. He's batted .333 in his 22 starts and multi-hit games in 10 of those 22 starts. He's a pinch hitter, and I'll look it up, but it seems like not as successful.
1-0 pitch. 1 ball, 1 strike.
1 for 4 as a pinch hitter for Luna.
Now will they let him swing away here in the first 2 pitches? Jose Oquendo flashing some signs. Let's see if they'll ask him to bunt.
I like the way the ball jumps off his bat.
One and 2 the count.
Chad Qualls, a right-hander, warming up in the bullpen for the Astros. Wainwright, as he's standing on the mound for the Cardinals. Now he just took a stroll off.
The Cardinals' best opportunity against Oswalt, they had a situation at 1st and 3rd, just 1 out, and John Rodriguez hit it to 1st. It was Miles, a runner at 3rd. He was then caught in a rundown. Pujols struck out. That was about all they could muster against Roy Oswalt. Luna knew it. Couldn't pull the trigger. They don't advance the runner. And now we're back at the top of the order next time.
Tanner comes all the way across, and Luna, you saw him just take the bat off his shoulder. He was looking for something else. Fooled. Eckstein, another multi-hit game for him. Jim Hickey, the Astros pitching coach, coming out there. A lot of times when a guy kind of jogs out there, it's a signal to the bullpen that I'm not going to make a pitching change. As used to always be, the manager would make the pitching change. The pitching coach would go out for the first visit.
Second annual Purina Pooches in the ballpark. Sunday, June 18th. Limited number of tickets on sale at the Arsenal Schnucks location beginning at 10 on Saturday, June 3rd. A surprise Cardinal guest will be there too. Pooches in the ballpark. 345-9000 for more information. So with one out, the hitter will be David Eckstein. Eckstein 2 for 3. Miller in relief of Roy Oswalt. 1-0 Houston. Both starters now out of the game as they pinch hit for Oswalt and pinch hit for Marquis. Marquis allowed only 3 hits. Two balls and no strikes. Career in 1-run games. Look at that, just one game above 500.
Wow.
Eckstein pulls it foul.
The interesting thing about that is, you know, you always think of Tony having a solid closer. And a lot of times those 1-run games are a reflection of what your late bullpen activity is like. 28th year at the helm. So he said a lot of years with good closers, good pitching staffs in general, and then a few of them you'd like to forget.
Here's a 2-1 pitch. Instead, a check on Miles, who started this inning with a base hit. Spezio now with a helmet on, talking with Al McRae and Joe Bettini down there. Miller.
I was going to say, you'd have to believe that they will not let Rodriguez face Miller.
Eckstein. Lazy fly ball out to right center. Miles back to first. Rodriguez looking into the dugout.
Well, maybe it's a situation, and I think this is good too, because there are times when, you know, Rodriguez, you know, that I think he'll hold himself in there against certain left-handers, and this may be a time where Tony would rather have Rodriguez face this left-hander than have Spezio, the switch hitter, face Qualls, the right-hander.
Say sometimes Trevor Miller, when he faces a lefty, will drop his arm angle even more so to the side. He's got the slider against these lefties, which is his best pitch. Fastball around 86, 87.
Well, that's, you know, and then once again, you're talking about a guy that ideally you only get one shot at. He's not going to be out there to face, you know, to turn the batting order over. So even if you face a guy maybe 3 times in a series, you still don't get a good enough read or a book on it.
Here comes an 0-1 pitch. Rodriguez pops it up. Ausmus will give it a look. It's out of play. Trevor Miller out of Louisville, Kentucky. Originally selected by Detroit. The 41st pick overall back in 1991.
Is he involved in some of those trades between Detroit and Houston with Ausmus going back and forth?
Darrell Ward was part of that. Brian Hunter, Orlando Miller, Doug Brocail, Todd Jones. Rodriguez in the hole, 0-2. Ausmus wants it on the outside portion of the plate. He gets it there. That's ball 1. That's a tough pitch to take right there. Trevor Miller is pitched with Houston, Detroit, Toronto, Tampa Bay the last couple of years. He was 2-2 last year with the Devil Rays and with Los Angeles in his career. Sold out crowd, 45,509. Another check.
Miller doesn't seem like he's real quick to the plate, so he pays close attention to that runner at first. And remember, he'll throw a lot of sliders. So good base stealers, they feel they get a good read on a lefty. They feel sometimes they're even easier to steal off of than righties. But it's got it usually it's a pretty accomplished base stealer that feels that way. Go back to Luke Brock, toughest guy, and maybe the only guy that he never felt like he could get a read off of was Don Gullett, and the reason was he never threw to first.
Pitch inside. Pujols on deck. You'd figure that one way or another, this is his last hitter he's going to face. From 0-2 to a full count, ball gets in the gap, and watch out. Outfield very, very deep, though, for John Rodriguez.
Chad Qualls, a right-hander and pretty good setup guy. It's on deck, play behind, increase the defensive range. That runner's going to be going either way.
This crowd comes alive here at Busch Stadium.
Telling Miles get a better jump, bigger jump, and Miller stepped off. I've seen times where guys forget that there's the runners or the first baseman had just told them that I'm playing behind, and they go ahead and try to pick them off.
Right. 3-2 the count on John Rodriguez. His single today. Twice he has grounded out.
Slider's his best pitch.
Here it comes. Lays off it, and now it's Pujols. Great at bat. This very well could be the game right here with Pujols digging in. And runners at first and second. A one-run Houston lead here in the bottom of the seventh. Pujols coming up with runners at first and second. Against Chad Qualls, 1 for 5, and that one hit, a home run. Business here in game one. Chad Qualls in our call to the bullpen, brought to you by Chevrolet. A record of 3-1. This will be his 26th appearance. And now Albert Pujols will dig in with runners at first and second, and a 1-0 Houston lead.
Brad Lidge sitting out there, but the way this game looks right now, depending on what Albert does with 2 outs here and runners at first and second, and whether we see Brad Lidge in the 9th or not. But Qualls, at least, this is his 3rd consecutive game.
Pujols is sitting on 24 home runs. Here it comes. Up and into Albert. Well, Qualls is basically a 2-pitch pitcher. He's got a fastball in that 92, 93, 94 mile-an-hour range, and he also has a very, very good slider.
And as a reliever, particularly pitching in the 7th, 8th inning, that's all he needs. Been very good in May. He's posted a 1.17 in 11 May appearances. He owns a .87 ERA in 7 outings in day games. His 3rd season with the Astros.
Well, Lidge was dominant last year, but these setup guys were unheralded. They were terrific. Pujols unloads. High out to deep left. Did he get enough? Burke is back near the wall. Gone! It carries out of here. Pujols with number 25, and the Cardinals lead it 3-1.
To to go inside and leaves the ball up out over the middle of the plate. He got underneath it, but would it carry? And the ball carries well in the left field corner. And another curtain call for Albert as he just lifts up. But once again, balls up, out over the plate. Do not stay in any ballpark when it's off the bat of Albert Pujols. Major league leader in home runs and RBIs and runs scored. And he added to that 25 home runs, 64 RBIs, and I think that is his 50th run scored now. Major league leader in all departments.
And now it's Scott Rowland. He hit it so high, and the crowd, they were just waiting to see what was going to happen with Burke. You couldn't really judge where it was going to go, and Burke just kept drifting, ran out of room.
And when I saw him try to jump, at first, he looked like he kind of was stationary as the ball started coming out toward him, drifting back against the wall. And when I saw his leg try to go up on the wall to scale it, then you knew that he had another. And true to form, it would be another game-winning RBI for Albert Pujols.
371 feet. Just gets enough of it. Boy, he hit that thing so high in the air.
Normally it's line drives, but you try and read the. See him right there. He's feeling for the wall. Changes surface, goes up and tries to jump, but boy.
Unbelievable.
I mean, you just every day you sit there and go, can we ask him for more?
And Rowland picks up a base hit to left. Obviously, that's the key at bat in the game, but let's give John Rodriguez an awful lot of credit in his at bat to get it to Albert Pujols.
Taking some tough pitches from a left-hander. He hadn't seen too many against him this year, but he was allowed to stay in there, and he battled them for the walk. And a lot of times we talk about what happens to setup guys, how games are won and lost 7th and 8th inning before you go to your closers. Well, this is one of those, but it's also sometimes those at-bats before tell a lot.
Ensberg commits an error. Rowland is going to try to get himself to third. Pitcher's covering. Throw is late. And it's first and third now.
Well, with Qualls covering, for some reason, Adam Everett did not throw the ball initially to the third base bag, or they would have had Rowland easy. But Ensberg, one of the best fielders, commits a critical error. Just underneath the glove, pulled up, and then you watch the shortstop as Scott. There's nobody as good as Scott going from first to third. I'll put Albert Pujols in that category too.
It brings in Sho Taguchi, who's had a good ball game. On base 3 times, couple of hits, also hit by pitch. Runners at the corners trying to add to this 3-1 lead.
As I said, this bullpen has been overexposed by playing some extra inning games in Pittsburgh over the weekend.
They went 18 innings on Saturday and then 10 innings yesterday.
Yeah, Qualls threw. He threw 2 shutout innings on Saturday. He got the win with a shutout inning yesterday. So
one is popped up behind home plate, out of play, 0-2.
Number 1 cheerleader for the Cardinals. Boy, he can do it all, can he?
Thanks a lot.
Well, James was probably taking his hitting instructor before that.
Right.
That at bat.
Comes an 0-2 pitch to Sho Taguchi.
Dave Borkowski, a right-hander warming up, but we don't see him this inning.
Cardinals strand 2. They've left 9 on, but Albert Pujols does it yet again. His 25th home run. The Cardinals have a lead as we head to the 8th. Who's Raising the Bar? Brought to you by Singular Wireless. What is the most memorable moment between the Astros and Cardinals? Now, one of your choices was the Pujols homer. We didn't say which one. Could have been just from the bottom of the 7th, Al.
Well, that would have been the other, but you could cover a lot of territory just saying Albert Pujols' homer. This is the most recent, number 25 of 06, and a potentially another game winner from Albert Pujols. Is he something else? And these fans, they can never get enough of it. He's got 12 game-winning RBIs on the season. That's first in the major leagues, with another one just depending on the bullpen.
Wainwright knocks it down, and Berkman retired. One pitch, and he gets him. It's a key man right there. That leadoff guy, plus the fact that it's Lance Berkman.
And a key factor in Adam Wainwright coming in here in the 8th inning. Now, he struck out the side on Saturday, his last outing in San Diego. But boy, as he emerged, and there you see Izzy. By the way, since the 05 season, Brad Lidge and Izzy tie for the National League lead with 55 saves since that time, since the beginning of last year.
Here's Morgan Ensberg. He has walked today. He has singled, and he's grounded out. Fastball and a strike from Adam Wainwright. You gotta love the demeanor and the body language from Wainwright. He gets it, and here it comes again.
I mean,
I'm coming right at you.
As a reliever, he can do this for short stints, and he can go out there and be this power guy. It's where you and I think, are on the same page. It's so easy to project him next year going into the starting rotation, and yet he's such a terrific weapon where he is right now. You may want to reconsider that. Looks like the slider.
Comes the 0-2. Well, that's a good pitch.
He's a strikeout pitcher, which is very important. Izzy's not a strikeout pitcher anymore, but it really is nice to have that at least one, if not more, guys late in the game to come into where they can produce strikeouts. Not so much when the bases are empty. Going to be a fastball down and away. Just off the plate.
Well, those last two pitches are
that 99
so
miles an hour is what it said on our gun.
2-2 the count. From 0-2 to the count even now 2-2. Preston Wilson waiting on deck.
Fastball down and away again. 99 to 89.
Wainwright on the just completed road trip picked up a home run.
Didn't want the slider. Here's that devastating curveball. Like I said, devastating when you pull down on it. But you know what? That can just, it's so bad that it can become a very effective pitch. Doesn't pull on it, gets the attention of Ensberg, who's kind of looking away. You come back with that curveball and you throw the yellow hammer that we see consistently. Just fastball away again.
Popped up. Miles calls for it. 2 outs.
Looking into a tough sun right there, and Encarnacion didn't give him a lot of help. He was content to let the infielders field it.
The Cardinals at San Francisco had Jason Marquis with a pinch hit triple. Wainwright homered on the first swing of his career in the major leagues. Braden Looper hit a double. Sidney Ponson singled on Saturday at San Diego.
Now there's the cycle.
There you go. Wilson has the RBI for Houston. Popped out to second, popped out to short. 1 for 3. 0-2 the count. Wainwright a strike away from sending us the bottom half of this 8th inning. Going back to saying what you were talking about before, the Cardinals have said he will not be a starter this year. This is his role. Got him. Ball, third strike on the outside corner. The Astros go 1-2-3. You want to see a pitcher hitting his spot? Here's our Hardy's hot pitch of the game.
The slider sets up down and away. He's ahead in the count, so he can kind of just sit there, and Preston Wilson had no shot at it. Ponson, who ran his record to 4-0, the only Cardinal pitcher that's undefeated.
Dave Borkowski, the pitcher now for Houston. We've seen Oswalt, Miller, Qualls, now Borkowski. 13th appearance. He's pitched in 3 consecutive games coming into this contest.
He allowed the game-winning sacrifice fly in the 18th on Saturday at Pittsburgh.
I was watching that game. Gallo, after Bay had reached second base, Gallo was in the game out, and they were going to intentionally pass. I can't remember who the hitter was. He threw it right to the backstop, and Bay wound up at third. Borkowski came in, gave up the sacrifice fly, and that was it. I'm sure you've seen that before, though.
Oh, yeah. I saw a 1-0 game. It was 0-0 in the bottom of the 9th inning. And Mike Torres, pitching for the Cardinals, tried to intentionally pass a hitter and threw it up on the screen to lose it. 1-0.
Got the shadows, the sunlight, and back to shadows. It's tough for those hitters.
Apparently not that tough. I thought it was going to get down.
Cardinal fans, you're traveling, missing games. Best way to watch the Cardinals on your PC at MLB.tv. Check it out at STLCardinals.com. Here's Aaron Miles, and he started off the 7th with a base hit. He's had a good game. Had a bunt hit against Oswalt. Scored a run on the Pujols 3-run shot. You have to go back with Phil Garner. Pitch count was getting up there a little bit for Oswalt, but he took him out, and the Cardinals got after this bullpen. Very surprised, though, at that point in time he took him out of the game. You figured at least one more inning, Al.
It was surprising to me, but Phil knows his ball club, and we don't know if there was some physical indication or problem that they decided to be very cautious with. Cardinals, if they hold on to this victory, they'll pick up a game on Cincinnati, have a 5-game lead on them, and be 7.5 game lead on Houston. Chicago would stay 13.5 games back.
Called third strike on Miles. We've got the Busch Light Midwest Sports Report coming up. Here's a preview of Jim Hayes.
Coming up after the game on the Midwest Sports Report, post-game reaction from the Cardinal clubhouse. Tony La Russa live, plus Bernie Miklasz breaks it all down for us. We'll see you after the game.
All right, Jim, thanks. Here's Larry Bigby. He takes a strike. So Adam Wainwright, good job by him again this afternoon, as he got Berkman, Ensberg, and Wilson. 3, 4, and 5 in the order in the top half of this inning. Bigby up the middle with a base hit.
He's had success in his brief career against Houston.
8 for 10.
Primarily playing in the, with Baltimore and a little bit with Colorado. 8 for 10 with a home run and a couple RBIs.
Here's David Eckstein. A couple of hits today. He's also flied to center and grounded out to third. Cardinals have Isringhausen getting loose.
Wouldn't hurt to tack on another run or two.
Due up in the 9th for Houston, Chris Burke, Brad Ausmus, and Adam Everett. They've already used their top pinch hitter, and that's Paul Merrill.
Jason Lane on there with power, and Lamb's had some big at bats. against Cardinals in the past. One of those situations too where it's not the ninth inning, but the middle of the order for Wainwright.
Right.
A tougher assignment than what the closer Izzy will get. But
you talked about how he's a strikeout guy, and the Cardinals had that in Calero a couple of seasons ago, and they had that in Al Reyes too. Eckstein on an 0-2 pitch picks up another base hit.
His third. Hitting machine. Hits well when the team wins. Hits well at home.
You know, we talk about where would this club be if Pujols was hurt. How about if David Eckstein? You know, this is a guy that's played just about every inning. Plays a demanding position at shortstop. He's a leadoff man. He takes pitches. He's getting on base a ton this year, just like last year.
Well, he's hit in 17 of his last 18 games at over 400 with 10 multi-hit games. Extended his season high 11-game hitting streak.
John Rodriguez with runners at first and second. Very good at bat last time up against the lefty Miller. Drew a walk. Looks at a strike. Tony La Russa did not go to his bench. He let Rodriguez hit against the lefty, and it paid off.
I've seen John too many times at least put the bat on the ball. And when facing a left-hander, he's kind of in a little stretch right now where he's seen the average come down. Still 349, but it was over 400 going on the road trip or thereabouts.
Pujols is on deck. Rodriguez breaks his back. Slowly hit. Too short. Everett on the move. And they got him. Just got him by a step. So we head to the ninth. Isringhausen will try to close it out when we come back. Well, let's take a look at our game recap brought to you by Jack in the Box. The Cardinals have a lead of 3-1. Game on the line. Albert Pujols facing Chad Qualls. And Albert picks up home run number 25 to give the Cardinals a 3-1 lead. And that takes us to the top of the ninth. It's our Jack in the Box game recap. So Isringhausen in for the Cardinals. Larry Bigby takes over defensively and left for John Rodriguez. And Izzy's trying to pick up yet another save, and the Cardinals are trying to give Jason Marquis a hard-fought win for Jason.
Izzy leads the National League with 16 saves. He has saves in each of his last 10 outings and 12 of his last 13. He's only blown 2 save opportunities. They were early in the season. Ranked second on the Cardinals' all-time save list with 156, chasing Lee Smith.
And here is Chris Burke, the first man he'll see. Isringhausen was bailed out by Molina on Saturday.
Had 2 quick outs and then a base hit. Walked a man on 4 pitches. Bigby stays in the game, plays left field. And then on an 0-2 pitch, the pickoff.
Out to shallow center, and it's going to drop for a hit.
Encarnacion looked like he couldn't see that ball. We've seen in some of these late 3 o'clock starts where the sun really becomes a problem for a lot of the fielders late in the ball game.
We saw that in that series against Milwaukee to start the home portion of the schedule.
Yeah, it was evident there opening day, and everybody thought, oh, they really made a problem where they located and how they angled this field. But that was the only day we saw it. But it may be these 3 o'clock starts and late in a game.
So now the tying run comes to the plate. Here's Brad Ausmus. Hit by a pitch, grounded out to short and fly to center. 7 innings by Marquis. Then Wainwright, a 1-2-3-8, and here we are with Isringhausen. Runners at first base, nobody out. 3-1 St. Louis lead.
And amazing here, you know, got the National League save leader out there on the mound, and everything is quiet.
Yep.
The crowd will get into it as he records outs, but
well, Isringhausen has talked about the fact time and again he does not mind pitching with runners on, even if it means if he walks a couple of guys to get to that scenario that he likes. That hitter that has, you know, a good matchup in his mind for him. A ball and a strike. Runner is going, and the pitch is popped up. Burke will have to retreat back to first base, and the catch will be made by Bennett. Cardinals baseball on FSN has been brought to you by Bud Light. Refreshingly smooth Bud Light, always worth it. By Chevrolet. See a Mid-America Chevy dealer today. Chevy and American Revolution. And by Advance Auto, we're ready in advance. You don't get sick seeing that highlight, do you?
No, not at all. Good thing about that pop-up, it was back into the shaded area, so it wasn't as difficult it would be if it was out there in the middle of the field where the sun is playing havoc with everyone.
Here is Everett. Rolling even with the bag at third. First pitch a strike. Double play could end it.
Izzy standing in the sun there, kind of just illuminates his release point.
Big lead at first. The 0-1 pitch. Shallow right, battling the sun. Encarnacion dropped it in foul territory. Well, we saw a play that should have been made on Mike Piazza, and he got another life and put one into the seats. Let's hope that's not going to be the case here.
He's got glasses on, but he didn't flip them down, and it was a long run, but I mean, this is the major leagues. You know, he could have been charged with an error there. I mean, it really doesn't make any difference because Izzy's either going to do it or not do it. But
the inning started with a blue pit.
Sure.
One that Encarnacion saw fall right in front of him. 0-2 now the count. Good play by Bennett. Cardinals trying to improve on this 4-game lead. Last season, Cardinals were 7.5 games ahead on Memorial Day. That was the largest lead in team history.
Curveball.
Runner is off with the pitch, and Pujols backhands it. Great play, race to the bag, and he got him. There's 2 outs. Good backhanded play by Albert.
Looked like kind of a hanging pitch up there. Just kind of defensive swing, and luckily Albert was right there. A foot race. Of course, that's how he jammed his back a few weeks back on a similar play like that, sliding into the bag, but appears to be okay. And the runner going, so he's in scoring position. Home plate. Jason Lane, the pinch hitter, with home run power.
He's got some power. 0 for 3, a couple of strikeouts against Izzy.
Have to believe Izzy got him to a point where he could throw the breaking balls, whether it's slider, cutter, or curveball.
Lane has seen his playing time diminished. He's only hitting 197. And on the year, he's got 9 home runs, 20 RBIs. As a pinch hitter, this season 0 for 2. We started the day talking about the closers. Jason Isringhausen got off to a slow start. Has picked it up as of late. 2 strikes now on Lane. And a strike away from win number 33.
Crowd starting to get into it. Most of them on their feet. As another classic battle between the Cardinals and Astros, hard fought, and the Cardinals can move their lead to 5 games over Cincinnati and 7.5 over the Astros. See if it's the cutter.
It's an 0-2 pitch. Tap foul. Isringhausen trying to pick up save number 17. He's 16 of 18 this year.
4 away from tying Lee Smith for the Cardinals all-time save leader.
This would be number 157 in his Cardinal career. Opponents have only hit 200 against him. That's it this season. Nothing in 2 the count. As he gets his sign. Here it comes.
Good pitch. Head the count. Throw it down there. Not going to get hurt.
Here comes a 1-2 pitch.
Just off the plate.
Marquis trying to become a 7-game winner if the Cardinals can hold on. With the most wins on the staff.
He pitched very well in this ball game and deserves the victory.
Astros only 4 hits on the day. He got him, and the Cardinals win it. 3-1 the final. As Albert Pujols delivers yet again his 20th back in the 7th off of Chad Qualls, and this is your Bud play of the game. Play of the game brought to you by Budweiser. Albert Pujols with home run number 25, RBI 62, 63, and 64. And a game-winning RBI for Albert Pujols. 3-12-0 for St. Louis, 1-4-1 for Houston. We'll wrap it up when we come back. Albert Pujols will be coming up in our star of the game on the Midwest Sports Report. Good win, Albert Bosky.
An outstanding win. It was a hard-fought game. Good pitchers duel. Both starters pitched exceptionally well. Good to see Marquis pick up his 7th victory. Wainwright a good outing. The league leader in saves, Isringhausen adds another. And Albert Pujols 13 game-winning RBIs now.
Marquis is 7-4. Izzy is 17th save. Over 45,000 saw it here at Busch Stadium. Next telecast will be tomorrow night. We'll come your way with the pregame show at 6:30. For Albert Bosky, our Bud Productions crew, I'm Dan McLaughlin. Midwest Sports Report comes your way next.